And I'm going to welcome everybody to Under the Hood. I don't remember exactly what number we're at, but we're over 2 years that we've been doing this. And I am so delighted today to have a fabulous guest, Kathy Boyle. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about her incredible background. But just to mention, Under the Hood is all about patterns that are created in childhood impact us as grown-ups. And that includes the good news, the not so good news, how we manage conflict, how conflict is handled in the household. I know it had a tremendous impact on me. And then the characteristics that you have brought into your leadership, basically. And again, what's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you. So, Kathy, tell us just a little bit the highlights, because I find a lot of times rather than reading a resume, we get the best of the juice from our guests. So, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Thanks, Tina. Thank you for having me here. So Chapin Hill Advisors is my primary business. We offer succession planning for family-owned businesses. So I have a very short attention span, and I love the diversity that are presented by family businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and going back to childhood, Tina, I had all these plans. My parents just thought I was a dreamer and a crazy person. I'm the oldest of 9 children. So I did the grocery shopping when I was 10 years old. And I've always loved animals. Animals have been my passion. So I actually run a dog rescue called the Golden Project. And we rescue out of Texas, primarily golden retrievers, but the tagline is saving those with hearts of gold. So any dog that has a chance of being adopted, we will take. But I bought my first dog by babysitting for 2 years for my siblings at a quarter an hour and saved up enough money. And back then I didn't know any better. I bought the dog from a pet shop. And that was one of my first businesses. I was planning on breeding the dogs. This goes back many years ago. And I just had all these dreams. So I think being the oldest of 9, I had to take care of a lot of people. I was able to juggle a whole lot of things. I had a lot of responsibility. And then I flew the coop. I wanted to get as far away as I could. So I went to Michigan State to be a veterinarian, and but I was exposed to boys and fun and waiting tables and working for a vet, and I was faced all these nerds where I'd been the smartest kid in high school and could take a last minute exam, and all of a sudden I've got all these same, it's the pre-med and pre-vet are the same track. So I've
Yes.
got all these nerds, right? And some of the classes were on TV because 35,000 people. And again, my short attention span did not help me. So I always wanted to go to Colorado. I flew the coop. I moved to Colorado. I became a ski bum, and I had several businesses out there. So I had an aerobic studio called the Fitness Fix with Kathy Boyle. I had a flower business called Pick of the Bunch. So I'm an entrepreneur by heart. And so I love delving into family businesses and helping them plan and execute their vision.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. We're going to slow down a little bit and go back because this was fat. I mean, you can already understand and see Kathy's energy. So, which ones of the patterns that you created, you alluded to it a little bit, you had a lot of responsibility, you were the oldest of 9. Which were the ones that really have taken you all the way through to where you are now? The patterns that were created that, your parents impacted you, and whatever else environment impacted you. Tell us a little bit
Well,
about.
I've been through a lot of interesting experiences. One of those ones where you say, God, how big are my shoulders, right? I call them effing growth opportunities. So I think one of the things is some people have said to me, I can't believe you're still flying. And
Mhm.
to me, what's the alternative? Go crawl up in a hole and die? So, so I think the resilience that I learned, I've always been athletic. So goal oriented, I'm very goal oriented. I don't go to the grocery store without a list. I just keep a list along the way. I'm super organized. And I think in order to get 9 children out the door in the morning, right?
Right.
And we had sandwiches, everything. We actually had a summer house. So we grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and we had a summer house up in Kent, Connecticut. So we actually went up there. I also saw my father being very unhappy, worked on Wall Street, because he needed to make money, but he really wanted to work with his hands, you know? So I think money is the key to happiness in many ways. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it sure buys you freedom. So I think recognizing those traits, I think the perseverance, my athleticism, my goal orientation, being able to multitask. People are very amazed at what I'm able to handle, especially with the rescue. I have 44 dogs in foster families right now and 6 going on transport next week. So a lot of everything from vet visits to fosters to food to medication, everything. And it's just a whole lot of info as well as posting on social media. So I just think being able to have, I've been blessed with energy. My mother has a lot of energy. Many of our family is half engineers and half creative. So I was blessed with both right and left brain, which
Yeah.
helps. So I have a marketing, brain, and then I also have the analytical brain. So I would say those are the key characteristics that I can think of.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Okay, so that's all the good news. What were some of the things that got in your way that you really kind of like, you know, I gotta figure this one out.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the Irish Catholic guilt background. You're never good enough. I was a very good student. Our whole family is smart, blessed with brains, and parents were very, very traditional. And nothing, you got 5 A's and 1 B, and there were no pats on the back for the 5 A's. It was just, how'd you get that B? What can we do? What was wrong with you? So I think that's the biggest impediment for me, especially when you own your own business. It's so much easier for me to sell your business, other people's business, and that's one of my gifts. I'm a connector. But it's very hard to price yourself to see whether or not you're affordable. Growing up, we did well. We did much better than many of my mom's siblings. My mom is one of 11. I have 52 first cousins. So a lot of, police, firemen, Con Ed workers, and so we did well, but 39 children to pay for. So money was always an issue, and my mom could have had a bomb shelter in the basement with the coupons and the double of everything she bought. So I think that frugality and that, mixed message, and that's the difficult part for me.
So I want to stop you for a second because I really want people to take this in. If you can listen to Kathy and listen to all the wonderful gifts that she was given and all the pieces, and there's still that little part of, am I good enough? And so it's so part of our, particularly being a woman, and let's bring that in. How does that kind of impact that statement that I'm not good enough? Because I've worked with many, many people over the years, and it is unfortunately a theme that runs through both men and women, but women really kind of take this one on a lot.
So we internalize things, right? We're holistic in our communication. Men are point to point in their communication. So men are very surface when women want to know how it works. And so in the investment business, that becomes very frustrating for women because they want to understand how the investment fits in, why it does. The man just wants to sell. Come on, Gladys, get over it. Just do what I say. Right. And I've actually heard men I started in the brokerage world. So I saw these guys selling to women oftentimes and just bullying them. So women also have a very big fear factor of being homeless and being the bag lady. No matter how successful they are, they can't get rid of that. And part of it's education. We don't learn how much is enough. We don't learn budgeting. The other day I did a quick little video on 50, 30, 20. 50% of your savings should go to your core household expenses, 20% to frivolous things, and 30% to discretionary, and 20% to savings. No one ever taught us that. So we don't have a concept of how much is enough. And then working in the brokerage world, I was one of 12 guys at a small firm that I'd moved to. And then somehow he hired another 20 people in the next year, and they're all men. Amazing. He couldn't find another woman. And we had a board on the wall that you were posted, not your actual number of commission that you did, but what rank you were. And the boys were super competitive, and the boys could get away with unbelievable stuff, and I would be singled out. So having that reinforced, one manager was Irish Catholic, alcoholic parents, raised with a dysfunctional family, a father who beat him, mother who died early, and he took that out on me. And that's the hard part, of feeling whether or not you fit in.
Yes. So how did you manage? Because again, the intricacies of how we do this is the part that I really kind of love and love to pinpoint. How did you kind of figure this out and navigate your way in spite of all of that?
So it was very difficult. It was very challenging. I'm not political. I could never survive in corporate America at all.
Mhm.
And, I worked in the brokerage business in the late 80s and 90s. So the boom boom really, room really did
Yeah.
exist, and the things that we were faced with and the things that men would do. I'm lucky I have a sense of humor
Mhm.
and I'm very quick on my feet. And
Mhm.
so what I did find is that giving the boys back their own put you on equal territory with them. I came in one time, we had to be in very early, 7:30, you're supposed to be in as a rookie, and there's a great big black dildo on my desk with a big red bow. So what are my choices? Throw it in the trash. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it slows down. In the old days, the bond market closed early. The boys would have come over and pulled that out of my trash, and embarrassed me in a boardroom of 100 people, almost all men, 10 women, 90 men. Bring it to my manager, make a big case out of it. So I walked it over to the guy that I knew did it. They were over on the other side of the boardroom. They're all drinking their coffee, leaning against their things. And I put it on the guy's desk that I knew did it. And I said, Ed, something tells me your wife needs this more than I do. I don't know where that came from, but they didn't bother me ever again. Where another poor woman, they tortured her. So I think you can't yell at them. You can't go report them to the manager. Boys play games, boys play sports. Women don't for the most part. We do more single things. Now, of course, things have changed, but in the old days, you didn't have soccer for women. You didn't have lacrosse for women, women weren't taught to play on a team the way the boys do.
Right. So the interesting part is because you and I are pretty much close to the same generation, and we were the ones that came out that feminism was the thing, right? So what happened for many women, and it sounds exactly what happened for you, is we became men. In order to play with them, we had to become them, right? And the women were wearing ties, if you remember, and and the pantsuit came in, and so on. And so in this generation, in terms of claiming the feminine, not giving it up, and also being, I like to say, strong enough to be vulnerable, right? That the inside of us has to be very strong in order to be able to tolerate and play and not have to give up being a woman, right? What do you see today, kind of in the workplace as how we have evolved and or how much we haven't?
Well, so, the funny thing is a lot of our clients are men.
Mhm.
Who's running the business that we're looking at for the most part in terms of succession plan? A lot of them are still run by men. 55 to 65 is sort of our demographic. And we run into still a lot of chauvinism, and especially we work within the ethnic communities. So Greeks, Pakistanis, even Italian, like I understand Irish, right? And I understand Italian because we grew up across the street from one another, so you grow up in the neighborhood together, you understand how the dynamics work. But when we go into planning, very often, unfortunately, we see the men giving the daughters the real estate and the boys get the business. And what's the gift that keeps on giving? The business, right? And you see that with divorce as well. Women will take the house. They want the security, raise their children, and not recognize the house is an albatross. It costs money to feed and pay taxes and everything else. They don't think in the big picture. They're just thinking very narrow, like, I need to be safe. And the same with the family business, like, oh, I'm going to get mom's house. I'm going to get mom's jewelry. Well, did you think about the fact that you're going to have to clean out the house? You're going to have to hire a real estate agent. You're going to have to sell the house. What if the market's against you? You're going to have to pay capital gains possibly on the house. So where the boys step into the role and start earning an income right away. And some of the friction that we see within the family businesses is the wife wants the daughter in the business. And the wife is sometimes the babysitter for the kids of the daughter. So it's a very cozy, codependent relationship, right? And the husband is like going ahead and doing this gratuitous, $50,000 a year salary because it's his daughter and the wife wants it and they don't face it, right? And once we get into planning, I had one Greek guy. I said, next meeting, your wife has to be at the meeting. No, 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 no. It's okay. I tell her what she needs to know. I'm like, no, 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 no. Do you know if something happens to you, she has to know me.
Yeah. So again, we have a very short time that we have so many things to cover, but in the big picture, right, we're preparing women to be women and also to be able to manage themselves in this world where, again, there is a lot of chauvinism and whatever ethnic generation it comes from,
Yep.
because these kind of cultural things, they don't die easily. They really don't. So let me ask you this. Can you give us like one story where you really, were kind of facing a really, really difficult time? You pulled yourself out. You've kind of touched on things, but kind of one signature story that you think about in terms of leadership, in terms of helping people, in terms of all the wonderful things that you do, it was a hard lesson. It was a hard lesson.
Yeah. So I think one of the big mistakes I made is hiring the wrong people and trying to delegate, because that's the challenge for every entrepreneur, right? How do you grow? And we have certain skill sets that come easy to us. So I made a major mistake hiring the wrong portfolio manager. And that led to a series of mistakes, a triple hit actually, that really, really almost drove me into bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there one night on the steps at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'd gotten this email, and the stairs to my bedroom, which was up on the third floor. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? My core income was just gone overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Wall Street has a lot of very evil people, and this was probably planned, and I didn't see it coming. So I'm an entrepreneur. You retool, and say, okay, what can I do? What are my immediate needs? Where else can I generate revenue? How do I morph myself into another business? So I generate income coming from other sources, which was a tough road. Consulting is difficult. People really don't realize, not only do you have to account for the time that involved with the client, you have to do the marketing and the maintenance and the accounting and manage the people. It's just a whole lot of other things that go into what looks like a lot of money per hour.
Yes.
And so that's basically what I did is I retooled. Looking back, I just wish I'd had better advice. I wish I had hired an HR consultant. They came in with all the Myers-Briggs and everything, and they helped me hire two of the worst hires in my life. And
Oh,
those
so
two
you bring up
hires.
another point that I want to that has been a theme. When I ask, and I'm going to ask you, who were your greatest mentors? Because a lot of times people think that we have to do this on our own, and we have blind spots. And I always like to say, wouldn't you like to know what your blind spots are? Because everybody else knows them. And who better to tell you than somebody that mentors you and trusts you? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I wish I could. I really haven't had mentors. I really haven't, to be very honest with you. Within the brokerage world, it's highly, highly competitive. We were given an early success strategy leader. The first one was a man, then they assigned me to a woman. She wouldn't even say hello to me in the elevator. So those are some of the hard lessons you start, and you're also vulnerable when you open yourself up, right? And then you get smacked and you step back. Somebody like me pulls back. I don't like to be vulnerable. I don't like to expose myself. And I think in the rescue world, I have mentors. I have other women who have left Wall Street who created their own rescues. I go to one of them very often for advice in terms of figuring out, so I have mentors there on the not-for-profit side. But within my business world, it's been very difficult because I tried to start an advisor panel, and a way to be able to say, okay, what are you doing for hiring? How are you handling this? What are you doing? Because, one of my clients once said, the person you interviewed and the person you hired have never met. And I think that's true. And so that's one of the biggest frustrations is finding the right people in the team to help you grow. And that's very difficult because people that are in corporate, one of my girlfriends is very, very corporate, and she looked over some of my stuff, but she's coming from a completely different perspective. When you work at a Citibank, you've got hordes of people behind you. My assistant's out for the day, they just put another one in the chair, right? You don't have that as an entrepreneur. Every person in the team is critical. So I wish I could say I had wonderful mentors. I think going back, that's one of the things that I would have sought out, but it was very difficult to find.
Yes, 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 yes. And again, you're highlighting so many of the issues. This is your story, but this is so many women's stories. In terms of us being vulnerable, and also, I mean, you hear just, in the whole political scene of she's a bitch, or she's a this, or she's a that. So yes, it's just something to consider, even now. Okay, because certainly what I'm finding, it's never too old to grow and to learn, and to learn from the experience of other people. But yes, you have to be careful, and who you trust is sometimes a journey, right?
A difficult one.
A difficult one. So kind of we're running a little bit out of time, and I just love you. I know you have many, many, many more stories and things to share. If you were to give some advice to whether it's male or female, the upcoming entrepreneur, somebody who wants to be a leader, because that's where we're focused on this. We want to teach people that, and you said it, and everybody that I've interviewed on this program has said the same thing. They've never gotten there in a straight line. A lot of young people think that it's a straight line. I have a goal, I want to go here, and this is where, but it's not that. It's we go over here, up, we go over here. As one mentor that I heard, it's not a ladder, it's a lattice. And every time we kind of find that we're a little bit off kilter, we want to come back to center. So as a serial entrepreneur, and has been in a lot of leadership, and continues to do, I mean, dealing with family businesses and succession and all those hot issues that come up, what would you like people to kind of take away from where you've been and what you have to, just kind of good advice? What would be the one or two things that you would want people to know?
So I think it's really crazy that we send kids off to college at age 17 and expect them to pick a career, because that's essentially what you're doing by getting a major, right? So I would encourage people to I took time off in between. My father was horrified. I became a ski bum for several years. But that's where I really found my passion. I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I love animals. I've been a vegetarian since I was 16. I've been vegan for the last 6. So in most of the vet schools are Aggie schools, and you have to kill animals as part of the coursework. And so I think had someone told me that ahead of time, that I wasn't going to be Dr. Doolittle helping animals, that I was going to have to kill someone's dog if they walked in and wanted to euthanize it, that would put me in tears, right? And so I think taking time off somewhere in that journey, and not going straight through 6 years of law school or MBA or whatever, and then just getting on this map. I think seeking out, LinkedIn is a great tool for finding help, in that respect, and finding, you can have paid mentors as well as non-paid mentors. I also think doing internships is a great way. I mentored a lot of interns, and I was shocked at how clueless some of them were even after working for me, right? Just like in thank you notes, and just like the graciousness of giving back. So I think doing a couple of internships can feel your way, because most people are not givers. And so finding a mentor means you have to find a giver. And you also have to find someone who's aligned with your own values. And I would not have clicked with someone very corporate. I'm just wacky compared to them, right? And they don't understand us. And so finding the right mentor in the value stream from which you want to come, men are linear in their career path many times. And that's part of the reason why divorce happens when the men get in their 50s and 60s and get the hot new chickie, because they got to the top of the roof and said, is this all there is? Right? And women cycle in and out of the workforce 9 times more than men. We're still the ones that give birth. And sort of the ultimate, gift is to be able to stay at home with your kids.
Yes.
right? And that means that you're no longer the primary income earner. And depending on your relationship, you can be segregated from the money and not know where it comes from. We joke that the women that we help with divorce are the ones that just know how to turn the Range Rover on remote. They don't know what makes it go, where it came from, et cetera. So those women are very vulnerable when they're married to a hedge fund god.
Yes.
So that's what I would suggest is, having parents who are not just set on you getting on that Ivy League track and making the right connections starting at their 33-year-old, grade school because it's the right connections. I think just really pausing and thinking about what's life about,
Mhm.
treasuring the gifts you have, and thinking about really what are your real skill sets and what's your passion in life. My passion has always been animals. And here I am, finally with my own rescue, which I never really thought I could manage. But here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. We have a couple more minutes. Hormones, would you like to jump in here? I know that Kathy has said a lot of things that probably got your little mind going.
Yes, that was very nice. Thank you, Kathy. I I worked in corporate America for 20 years, and I think in addition to mentorship that I had with late Jim Rohn, I learned many things in corporate America, even though it's politics, and I know you don't like politics, nobody likes it, but that's the best classroom that we can have. So I think going directly from college to entrepreneurship, you break this link, and you never learn what kind of animals live in the business world, so to speak. So I think that's one. And the other thing, I work with a lot of women. I think feminism doesn't mean necessarily that we should be equal with men at all aspects of life, and we have to be truck drivers, perhaps. Women can be one of the best managers, best leaders, best physicians, best teachers. We don't have any male teacher that is as good as female teacher, but competing in wrong areas with men is going to actually fall us behind, get us behind the pack. So I think women have tremendous attitude and personality and qualification for leadership and management that men can learn, but they're lacking. It's not automatic. Men have to learn. We can go to school and learn.
I love that. Yes. And I think as more women who embrace both the masculine and the feminine sides of themselves are really the best leaders. We can go ACDC. You got to be this way. I can do that. We got to go be this way. We can do that. And it's the same thing with any great coach, any great parent. There's not one right answer, right? We just have to have a vast amount of skills to be able to pull the ones that we need at the time that we need them. So again, we could go on and on. There's a lot of fabulous material here, and I hope that people who are watching the replay will reach out. Will reach out to Kathy. Certainly reach out to me at Hormones. This is a community, and we are building the community, even though it doesn't look like we have a lot of people on. We do have a lot of people that kind of check in with us on a regular basis. So Kathy, we will have exactly how to get in touch with you, but you can just say it now and let people know exactly what you want them to know about you.
Perfect. Thanks, Tina. So chapinhill.com is our website for planning, consulting, and Boyle at chapinhill.com is my email. That's the easiest way to reach me. The Golden Project is my rescue. We're actually on Facebook. We just got our 501c3, so we'll have a website shortly. And, welcome the opportunity to speak. One of our talks is actually, would you hire your child if they weren't your child? And that speaks to our Mez point that, the best family businesses are the ones that let their children go off and learn to swim elsewhere in another company or another business. So anybody who has an opportunity for speaking engagements, I'd be delighted to speak. And any family businesses that need help with your vision and planning and exit, I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you again. This is Tina Greenbaum from Mastery Under Pressure, who is sponsoring Under the Hood, and we look forward to seeing you next time I have another fabulous woman guest. So thank you again for coming, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ramon. Yes, indeed.